you and I were not around. Right? Well, the upside of that is you can't be blamed for it. And when God came down here and replaced him with Adam, replaced him with a dirt ball, correct? Right? Could you imagine being replaced by a dirt ball? You think that wouldn't be a humiliating thing? I mean, here is Lucifer, and the Bible said he was beautiful, and had all these beautiful stones, and the light of God was reflecting off of him, and he was like, wow, look at me. And when God told him he's fired, lost his job, went to a place of fire, and when God said he's fired, I wouldn't doubt he said, oh yeah, where are you going to find a replacement for me? And I'd like to think that the Lord just said, step aside, and took the dirt he was standing on, went, hello, Adam, meet your replacement. How would you like to be replaced by a dirt ball? But when all of that took place, you and I were not around. Isn't that right? We weren't. I know how important you are. You're so important that they can't paint the bathrooms without contacting you about what shade. I've talked with people, and they'll go, well, they painted the bathrooms and nobody asked me what I thought. That's because no one cares what you think. They didn't ask me what my opinion is. That's because your opinion really doesn't matter. That's because nobody cares. If you'd like to tell somebody, walk out to that tree, tell the tree. It's the only one that'll stand there long enough for you to give your story to. And when that took place, it didn't happen. Hey, guys. When God chose, when the flood happened, we weren't around. When God chose Abram, and from Abram, according to Genesis chapter 12, said, I'm going to make a people from you, and all of the people of the world are going to be blessed through you. I get these guys that I'm to the right politically, okay? But I'm not a right-wing nut. And you get these right-wing, the guys you get out on shortwave. I don't know if you ever listen to shortwave, but stop. Because you can OD on shortwave, all right? And you get these guys that are way out on the right. and here's how, listen, I talked to a guy one time and he gave me a real thought. He said, left wing, right wing, he said they're both flapping on the same bird. Wait a second. See, here's what you think. You think if the left wing is bad, then I should be to the right. Well, now look at the left and the right. They don't agree on anything. Isn't that right? A leftist believes that gun control is him coming to your house and taking your gun. Right? A right wing thinks gun control is hitting what you aim at. And I'm kind of over there. I kind of like that one. Especially if it's the guy on the left that you happen to be aiming at. Now look, they don't agree. They don't agree on gun control. They don't agree on abortion. They don't agree on capital punishment. They don't agree on taxes. They don't agree on anything. But those wings, from clear tip to tip, they finally meet, don't they? When they come to the bird, do they not meet? Do you know where the left and the right meet? They both hate Israel. You find the radical leftist news media and they hate Israel, and you find the radical right militia and they hate Israel. And I hear some of these guys, they go, well, don't you know, Israel's running everything. It's all Jews running. And I said, that's the way God intended. It's a bunch of Jewish bankers running it. Good. I'll take it. All right, I will. It's either that or the Italian mafia. Well, what are you going to do? And when God chose Abram to bring forth the children of Israel, and I am still of the opinion they are still God's chosen people. Guys, there are a lot of blessings for us in this Bible, are there not? We don't have to try to pick Israel's pocket. I don't have to try to push them out of the picture to try to steal some of their blessings. God is dealing with Gentiles right now, is he not? And let's ride the wave, okay? Let's take advantage of the opportunity, but your time and mine, our time is limited, and it's going to end someday, and God is going to reestablish Israel. And I was talking to somebody not long ago, and they go, something was going on in Israel, and they go, aren't you worried about what's going on in Israel? I said, no. I said, I never worry about what's going on. And I said, I would only worry if I lived over there and I wore a tablecloth on my head and held it on with a fan belt. I said, I'm not worried about Israel because I know Israel is God's chosen people and they're going to be around. We need to worry about the United States and Canada because God may use our countries now, but there's no guarantee that we'll be around next week. He doesn't need you. He doesn't need us. Do you understand? But when all of that took place, when God chose Israel and all the things, you know, and you read about his children and all the problems with Joseph and Judah and Reuben, and all those things took place, and all of those trials of Israel, we were not around. You weren't around. You weren't a thought. You didn't count because you didn't exist. Isn't that right? You look at that Old Testament and everything that went on, all the trials of Israel's history, 39 books. We have 39 books of the Old Testament, and when every one of those words took place and when every one of them was penned, you didn't exist, I didn't exist, your brother didn't exist, your father didn't exist, your grandfather didn't exist, your great-grandfather did not exist. Do you understand? I mean, we just weren't even in existence. We weren't around. We're not a bunch of Mormons, right? That's what they think. They think that heaven is inhabited by a bunch of spirits waiting for somebody down here to have babies so they can have a body so the spirit can come down here and inhabit the body and work its way toward God. That's wrong. You weren't hanging around heaven waiting for some body to pop up so you could come down here. You and I did not exist. And then you look at the New Testament. It starts with Jesus Christ in the 4 Gospels. And I'm sure you've read the Gospels, and we're all familiar with the life of Jesus Christ and his earthly ministry. And when all of that took place, and think about this, that life changed our life, and our life wasn't even around when that life was here. Isn't that right? You know, he said, come unto me, all you that labor and heavy laden, I'll give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I'm meek and lowly in heart. You shall find rest unto your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. And you know something? I fit those 3 verses, but I wasn't even around when he said it. We weren't a thought. We weren't around. The book called the Acts of the Apostles, when those apostles were performing all of those acts, you weren't applauding. You weren't reading about it. You weren't amazed by it. You weren't part of it. You weren't moved by it. You know why? Because you didn't exist. Right? When all of those epistles in the New Testament were written and sent to their appointed churches, when they were read to those churches, you didn't hear them read. You know why? Because you weren't around. You did not exist. When Columbus sailed to this side of the world and discovered this country, so he didn't discover it, there were people already here. They didn't even know it. They weren't doing anything with it, you know. I mean, what do you think? You know, it was just a bunch of environmental Indians, and it was nothing but coast-to-coast casinos. Every time they shot a deer, they'd go, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was out in west of our country, and I saw, you know what a buffalo jump is? That's about a 50-foot cliff where they ran herds of buffalo over. And, of course, I can envision how because they're all very environmental. Indians are all very environmental. You know, I know that because that's how TV presents them, and they would never tell me anything that wasn't true. And what you don't know is that when they were running these herds of buffalo over this buffalo jump and killing all these buffalo, they don't ever kill one that they didn't need. So they've got one guy going like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's up. Okay, go stop him. And one guy walked out there and went, okay, a buffalo. There's another guy standing next to the guy counting going, sorry. Oh, sorry. Oh, tough, isn't it? Sorry. Because they're all one with nature. But I'd like the guy that had to walk out there and stop him. Okay, we got enough. You can turn back. Okay, we turn back now. Because they never let any waste happen, right? Hey, guys, when Columbus sailed over here, you weren't around. I wasn't around. When Luther nailed his 95 Theses to the door of the chapel at Wittenberg, you weren't there to say amen to it. You weren't there to say, let's go up and read it. You weren't part of the Reformation. Now, I do believe that that Reformation swept Europe, crossed into England, came over to this continent, and I do believe that this church and the churches that believe the Bible in the United States are still an effect, not a remnant, but a residual